A quick hello from the writer. Here's a new story for you. Let's listen.
For my father's 75th birthday dinner, my family invited my older son, but not my 9-year-old daughter. We all agreed she shouldn't give everyone secondhand embarrassment, my mother said right in front of her. Then my son did this. The next day, the whole family was panicking. My name is Caroline, and that Saturday, the day before my father's 75th birthday dinner, started at my mother's kitchen table with iced tea sweating through paper napkins and gold-edged place cards spread beside a birthday program. My 9-year-old daughter June sat next to me, holding the little blue paper where she had written her speech for my father's 71st birthday. My older son Owen stood behind her chair, eating pretzels from a bowl while my mother moved cards around like she was assigning seats at a royal wedding. "Brooklyn first, then Caleb, then Owen," she said, tapping each grandchild's name. My brother Mark leaned against the counter, nodding like he was chairing a board meeting. His wife Tessa scrolled on her phone, and Mark's daughter Brooklyn kept whispering to her brother Caleb. I looked down at the program again. Owen's name was there. Brooklyn's was there. Caleb's was there. June's was not. I waited for my mother to slide one more card from the stack. She didn't. The empty space beside my daughter got louder than any word. I reached across the table and lifted the program before my mother could cover it with the seating chart. "Where is June's card?" I asked. June looked up fast, then back down at her folded speech. My mother didn't even blink. She pressed her pencil against Brooklyn's name and said, "June won't be attending the dinner part. We need the evening to run smoothly." Owen stopped chewing behind us. Mark gave a small laugh, the kind people use when they want cruelty to sound practical. "Come on, Caroline. Nobody wants to sit through her choking on 4 words while Dad's important friends stare at their plates." Brooklyn snorted, then covered her mouth. Caleb looked at June and whispered, "Shh, June." My mother slid June's invisible place farther away with one finger. "We all agreed she shouldn't give everyone secondhand embarrassment," she said, right in front of my child. June's shoulders moved inward. The room didn't fall silent. It kept going, and that made it worse. June had been holding that blue birthday paper with both hands. After my mother said it, she folded it once, then again, until the corners dug into her palm. I put my hand over hers, but she pulled it into her lap like she had done something wrong. "Does Dad know?" I asked. My mother finally looked at me, annoyed that I had interrupted the process. "Your father is at golf. He does not need to be bothered with little details before his birthday weekend." Mark added, "Exactly. Dad wants a nice night, not a therapy session." Owen stepped around June's chair, slow and careful. He picked up his own cream-colored place card, the one with his name in my mother's careful handwriting. "So Grandpa asked for all the grandkids," he said. "And you edited one out?" My mother's mouth tightened. "Owen, don't be dramatic." He stared at the speech program, then at June's crushed paper. "No," he said. "I think dramatic is pretending this is seating." My mother reached for Owen's card like she could still reset the moment. "You are speaking after Caleb, and I expect you to be respectful." Owen didn't hand it to her. He pushed the card across the table until it hit the program. Then he picked up his speech card, the one he had written in black marker, and tore it straight down the middle. The sound cracked through the kitchen. Tessa finally looked up from her phone. Brooklyn whispered, "Oh my God." My mother stood. "Do not ruin your grandfather's birthday over this." Owen put both halves of the card on top of June's missing spot. "If she's embarrassing," he said, "I'm embarrassing too." June made a tiny sound. Not a word. More like air catching. Mark shook his head. "You're 16. Stop acting like a toddler." Owen didn't move. He looked at Mark, then at my mother, and said, "At least toddlers don't vote kids out of families." That was when the kitchen stopped pretending. I took June's backpack from the chair and slid the folded blue paper into the front pocket before anyone could touch it. "We're leaving," I said. My mother followed us into the hall, her heels clicking like she was chasing a waiter. "Caroline, if you walk out now, do not expect me to fix the program later." I opened the front door. "There is nothing fixed about that program." Mark called from the kitchen. "Dad won't want this mess at his table. Remember that." Owen stepped onto the porch first and waited for June. She moved like her shoes were full of wet sand. My mother lowered her voice, aiming for me but loud enough for June. "You are making her life harder by pretending people will always wait." Owen turned around so sharply the porch boards creaked. "Grandpa waits," he said. My mother's face shifted, quick and ugly. "Your grandfather doesn't understand how uncomfortable it is for everyone else." I closed the door before Owen answered. Her last word followed us through the wood. In the car, nobody spoke for the first mile. June sat in the back with the backpack hugged to her stomach, staring out at the maple trees along my mother's street. Owen sat beside her, his torn speech card still in his fist because he had carried it out without noticing. I kept my hand steady on the wheel and turned away from the house before my mother could appear in the mirror. "You don't have to go tomorrow," I told him. Owen looked at me through the rearview mirror. "I know," June whispered. "I'm sorry." The word broke in the middle, and she pressed her lips together like she could hold the rest inside. Owen unfolded the torn card and dropped both pieces into the cup holder. "You didn't do anything." I thought my son had simply refused to attend. I thought that was the whole protest. I did not understand that he had already decided the next move. By the next day, everyone who laughed in that kitchen would be calling us. June's stutter had always been part of her voice, but the winter before that birthday, it became a wound people could touch. I first saw the change after a school reading circle when I arrived early and found her sitting on the hallway bench outside her classroom with her book closed. Her teacher, Mrs. Hanley, knelt in front of her and said, "Take your time, sweetheart." June shook her head so hard her ponytail hit her cheeks. Later, in the car, she told me 3 classmates had laughed when she got stuck on the word mountain. She tried to say it again for me and couldn't. She slapped her own knee, furious and ashamed. That night, I signed the speech therapy forms on our kitchen counter while she watched from the stairs. Twice a week after that, she practiced breathing into her belly, tapping words with her fingers, and starting again when tears came. She kept trying anyway. That was the part my mother never mentioned. Owen became June's unofficial bodyguard without announcing it. One afternoon, I heard them in the living room while I was unloading groceries. June stood by the coffee table, reading 3 sentences from a library book, her fingers tapping against her jeans. She got stuck on beautiful, and the pause stretched. Owen sat on the floor with a bag of chips open beside him and didn't fill the space. When she squeezed her eyes shut, he said, "I'm still here." She tried again. "Oh." From the TV, some cartoon character shouted, and Owen muted it without looking away from her. "Let her finish," he said, even though nobody else was in the room. June laughed once, embarrassed but lighter. You say that like there's a crowd. He shrugged. Practice crowd. Then he made a big show of checking an imaginary watch. Good news. My schedule says I have all day. She got through the sentence. Owen threw one chip in the air and called it a standing ovation. My father had always been June's safest listener. On Sunday afternoons, he came over with groceries he claimed were extras, though they were always the cereal June liked and the spicy pickles Owen liked. He would sit at our small kitchen table with his coffee while June told him about school, stopping and starting through every sentence. When she got stuck, he did not look away, rescue her, guess the word, or pat her hand like she was breakable. He just waited. One afternoon, she tried to tell him about a science project involving mealworms, and larvae trapped her for nearly 10 seconds. I saw her eyes dart to me in panic. My father leaned back in his chair and said, I've got time. Not soft, not pitying, just certain. June breathed, tapped once, and got the word out. My father nodded like she had given him a stock tip. Excellent. Now tell me why anyone voluntarily keeps worms in a classroom. She grinned before she answered. That was why his birthday speech mattered. 3 weeks before the party, my father called during dinner, and I put him on speaker because June was eating spaghetti with sauce on her chin. I'm making a request, he said. At my 71st, I want every grandchild to say one thing. It can be funny, serious, short, long. I just want to hear from you. Owen said, Can mine be 2 words? My father said, Only if they're expensive words. June held her fork halfway to her mouth. Every grandchild? She asked. Every single one, he said. She looked terrified, but after the call, she pulled a blue sheet of paper from the craft drawer. For days, she practiced at breakfast, after therapy, before bed. Sometimes she cried because Grandpa got stuck. Sometimes she started over 5 times, but she refused to quit. It's for him, she told me. She wasn't chasing attention. She was trying to give love out loud. My mother, Mark, Brooklyn, and Caleb had turned speaking into a test June could fail. At family dinners, if June paused while asking for ketchup, Brooklyn would freeze with her mouth open and make Caleb laugh. Mark would say, Spit it out, kiddo, as if impatience were helpful. My mother preferred the smoother blade. Maybe Caroline should order for you, she once said at a restaurant, after June struggled to ask for grilled cheese. Tessa looked away every time, which was its own kind of permission. One Thanksgiving, Caleb repeated June's stuck please until Owen stood up so fast his chair hit the wall. Do it again, he said. Caleb stopped. Mark told Owen to relax. My mother told me I was raising sensitive children. The result was always the same. June got quieter around them. Then they used her quiet as proof she should not speak. Their cruelty fed the problem, then blamed her for having it. The birthday dinner had another layer I did not fully understand until that planning lunch. My father owned a small construction supply business he had mostly stepped back from, plus a 25% stake in a family rental duplex Mark had wanted for years. Lately, my mother kept mentioning future arrangements and grandchildren's funds while Mark polished his family into a brochure. Brooklyn's honor roll, Caleb's travel baseball, Tessa's volunteer committees. Owen and June were treated like side notes unless my father was in the room. The week before the party, I overheard Mark telling my mother, Dad likes clean presentations. This dinner has to feel controlled. My mother answered, It will. I remember June standing in the hallway with her speech paper while Brooklyn practiced a joke about Grandpa's old golf pants. Suddenly, June was not just a nervous child to them. She was a risk to their perfect stage. Worse, she was close to the man they were trying to impress. That made her voice dangerous. After we left my mother's house, I drove past our own street twice before I noticed. June kept trying to speak from the back seat, but every sentence broke apart before it formed. She swallowed, stared at her knees, and tried again. Owen leaned forward. Don't say fine if you're not. The stoplight turned red, and I pressed the brake harder than I meant to. June's face crumpled, but she did not cry loudly. She whispered, "Maybe Grandma is right." 4 words. They did more damage than the whole kitchen fight because they came from inside her now. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot and turned around in my seat. No, she is not right. June rubbed the crease in her blue paper through the backpack fabric. "People look," she said. "They wait weird." I wanted to make the world kinder in one sentence and knew I couldn't. Then Owen opened his door. "We're asking Grandpa," he said. I told Owen to get back in the car because we were not making decisions in a parking lot. He got back in, but he did not drop it. "Grandma doesn't own Grandpa's birthday," he said. "Uncle Mark doesn't own who counts as family." I gripped the steering wheel. "I need to think." Owen's voice stayed low, which made it stronger. "No, Mom. They had the lunch, the program, the seats, the speeches, and June wasn't even allowed to ask. We don't need Grandma's permission. We need to ask the person whose birthday it is." June looked between us, scared by the idea, and pulled toward it at the same time. I said, "Your grandfather may be tired. He may not want drama before tomorrow." Owen answered, "Then I want to look him in the eyes and know if he really thinks she's embarrassing." That shut the car down colder than yelling would have. I checked the time. My father's golf round would be ending. I turned toward the club. The golf club parking lot smelled like cut grass and hot asphalt. I parked near the side entrance, where carts rolled in under a green awning. June stayed belted in, clutching her backpack, while Owen scanned every man in a polo shirt like he was looking for evidence. My phone buzzed before I opened my door. It was a text from Mark in the family chat. "Do not drag Dad into this. Tomorrow is important. Mom has worked too hard." Then another came from Tessa, smoother but worse. Maybe June can make him a private card instead. Less pressure for everyone. A third message popped up from Mark, meant to end the discussion. "Dad is finally ready to talk about the duplex and the kids' accounts. Don't blow this up over a speech." Owen read it over my shoulder. "There," he said. "That's the second reason." June whispered, "Money?" I locked my phone. The insult had a price tag now. My father came out 10 minutes later with his golf cap in his hand and a towel over one shoulder. He smiled when he saw us, then stopped when he saw June's face. "What happened?" he asked. I opened my mouth, but Owen stepped forward. Not rude. Just done waiting. "Grandpa, did you uninvite June from your birthday dinner?" My father's expression changed so sharply that I felt the answer before he spoke. "What?" Owen held up the torn halves of his speech card. "Grandma said June isn't coming because the night has to run smoothly. Uncle Mark said nobody wants to watch her choke on 4 words. Brooklyn and Caleb laughed. Grandma said they all agreed June shouldn't give everyone secondhand embarrassment." The words landed one by one. My father looked at me, not for permission, but confirmation. I nodded. June hid behind my arm. My father's jaw moved once. "Who told you I agreed to that?" he asked. Owen said, "They made it sound like everyone did." My father lowered himself onto the bench beside the cart path and turned his whole body toward June. He did not call my mother. He did not curse Mark. He looked only at my daughter. "June," he said, "did you want to come tomorrow?" Her mouth opened, then closed. Her fingers tapped against the backpack strap. I... The sound stuck hard, and she flinched like someone had raised a hand. My father waited. A cart rolled behind us. 2 men laughed near the clubhouse door. Still he waited. June breathed in the way her therapist had taught her. "I practiced," she got out. My father's eyes went wet, but his voice stayed steady. "I asked every grandchild to speak because I wanted every grandchild heard." He looked at Owen's torn card, then at me. Nobody had permission to remove her. Nobody. Owen's shoulders dropped for the first time all afternoon. June stared at my father like she was checking whether the floor was safe to stand on. I expected my father to call my mother right there and start a fight in the parking lot. Instead, he stood and brushed grass from his pants. His calmness was heavier than anger. "Do not answer Mark," he told me. "Do not argue in the chat. Do not explain this to your mother tonight." I said, "Dad, what are you going to do?" He glanced toward the clubhouse doors, where his golf friends were still talking, then back at June. "What I should have done sooner." Owen asked, "Are we still supposed to come?" My father stepped close enough to put one hand on June's backpack, not touching her unless she wanted it. "You were never uninvited by me," he said. "Come tomorrow. Bring your speech. I'll handle the rest." June nodded, one small movement. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. Probably my mother now. Probably Mark too. I did not look. My father's final words made the air very still. We were coming. The birthday dinner was in a private room at an old steakhouse with dark wood walls and framed photos of local baseball teams my father had sponsored. I walked in with June on one side and Owen on the other, both of them dressed like they were attending a trial. My mother stood near the entrance in a silver jacket, but her hostess smile slipped when she saw June. Mark was beside the program table with Tessa, Brooklyn, and Caleb. He started toward us, then looked down. The printed tribute program had changed. Brooklyn and Caleb were no longer listed as speakers. Owen's slot was gone too, exactly as he had chosen when he tore up his card. June's name was listed under the grandchildren tribute, and Mark's family had been seated 2 tables away from her, not beside us. My mother picked up one program, then another, as if the first one had lied. Mark hissed, "You turned Dad against everyone." I said, "No." Owen told him what happened. Owen looked at his uncle and did not blink. Mark finally looked scared. June almost backed out in the hallway outside the private room. I found her by the coat rack with her blue speech paper unfolded and shaking in both hands. "I can't," she said, and the words came clean because they were so urgent. "I can't do it with them there." Owen took the paper gently, smoothed one crushed corner, and handed it back. "You don't have to be smooth," he said. "You just have to be you." Before I could add anything, my father tapped a spoon against his water glass inside the room. We hurried back as everyone sat. He stood at the head table, not smiling yet. "Before June speaks," he said, "I need to say something." My mother's hands clamped around her napkin. My father looked across the room. "When I was a child, I stuttered badly. I remember every adult who made me feel stupid for needing time." June's head lifted. Nobody had told her that before. My father continued, and the room got quieter than any room full of relatives has a right to be. "The shame in this family is not a child's stutter," he said. "The shame is adults teaching a child that her voice is only welcome when it is easy to listen to." Mark stared at his plate. Brooklyn's face went red. Caleb stopped swinging his foot under the table. My mother whispered, "This is unnecessary." But my father heard her. "It became necessary when someone removed one of my grandchildren from my own birthday." Then he turned to June. "Whenever you're ready." June stood so slowly that I almost stood with her, but Owen touched my sleeve and shook his head. He walked to the front and stood beside his sister, not touching, just there. June unfolded the blue paper. "Grandpa," she began, and the first words stretched. No one moved. My father waited. Owen waited. Then June found the next word, and another. The whole room had to learn her pace. June's speech lasted less than 2 minutes, but every second had weight. She stuttered on garden, paused on Saturday, and restarted one sentence from the beginning. At the far table, Caleb glanced at Brooklyn like he was waiting for their old joke, but Brooklyn looked down first. June kept going. "You make pancakes with chocolate chips," she read, "even when Mom says breakfast can be normal." A few people laughed softly, the right kind. She smiled at the paper, then finished with the line she had practiced most. "Your voice makes me feel safe, so I wanted to use mine for you." My father stood before anyone else reacted. He crossed the room and hugged her like she had just carried something heavy all the way to him. "Thank you for every word," he said into her hair. Then he looked around the room, making sure everyone heard the next part. "Your voice is worth waiting for." My mother started crying, but not the way people cry when they are sorry. After dessert plates were cleared, my father stood again with one hand resting on the back of June's chair. "I plan to finalize some financial help and future property arrangements tonight," he said. Mark sat up so fast his fork hit the table. My mother whispered, "Mark," warning him not to speak. My father went on, "But I will not reward adults who tried to silence one of my grandchildren." Mark's face emptied. "Dad, you can't change everything over one comment." A cousin near the back muttered, "This is a lot over a little girl's feelings." My father turned his head. "No. This is about adults using cruelty, shame, and money to decide which children deserve to be heard." Tessa reached for Mark's wrist, but he pulled away. "We were protecting the event." My father answered, "You were protecting your access." The word access hit the room harder than money. My mother looked at the program table again, as if control might still be waiting there. My father did not announce exact numbers that night, but he made the new rules clear. Each grandchild's fund would be placed in a protected trust controlled through his lawyer. I would manage Owen's and June's trusts and expenses with the lawyer, not my mother, not Mark, and not any family vote. My mother's mouth opened. I was supposed to help organize those. My father said, "You will not manage anything involving the grandchildren's money or future." Then he looked at Mark. The transfer of my 25% stake in the rental duplex is paused until I see real change. Mark went pale in a way I had never seen. You're punishing everyone over one stuttering kid? The room froze. My father did not raise his voice. That sentence is exactly why this decision is final. Brooklyn started crying into Tessa's shoulder. Caleb stared at his shoes. My mother covered her face, but no one rushed to comfort her. For the first time all night, the silence belonged to June. The next day, my phone buzzed before breakfast. Mark called 3 times, then texted, "Call me now." My mother sent a long message about family unity and private misunderstandings. My father sent one sentence, "It is handled." Later, he told me the numbers because he wanted no confusion. Each grandchild would receive a protected $75,000 trust. June would receive an extra $40,000 for speech therapy, confidence support, and anything that helped her take up space without apology. Owen would receive $15,000 toward college because, as my father said, he protected his sister when the adults failed her. Mark lost the expected 25% stake in the family rental duplex, worth about $260,000, and the income from that stake was redirected into the grandchildren's funds. June was not cured. She still stutters. But now, when a word gets stuck, she does not disappear. Owen still says, "Let her finish," and my father still says, "I've got time." My family thought June's voice would embarrass them. In the end, the only embarrassing thing was making everyone hear the truth. If you were in Caroline's place, would you have handled it the same way? Tell me your thoughts in the comments, and if this story moved you, make sure to like and subscribe.
Hello. I really hope that you enjoyed this story. I worked really hard on it. I also started narrating my own stories on a different channel. So if that's something you would like to check out, there should be a link in the description and maybe somewhere on the screen.